Both sides are declaring victory over the fate of the legislative filibuster in the Senate. So, look, in this story, I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds. So I'm going to be asking you to bear with me because this is important because we actually want to get things done in this country. So now first, Chuck Schumer is declaring that he had won with McConnell. Now, I've reported before about how Mitch McConnell and he's the loser of the Senate. He's the minority leader now. Chuck Schumer is the majority leader, but it's a 50-50 Senate, so they're tied. Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker vote, which ultimately, of course, hands the Senate over to Democrats. Now, in this situation, which doesn't happen often, I think the last time was in 2001, they tend to do something called a power sharing agreement, right? So now Schumer's been working with McConnell. He's been talking with McConnell about what kind of rules they're going to set in this power sharing agreement, how Democrats are going to run the committees, but they're going to be staffed equally with Republicans and Democrats. And I basically called it a recipe for gridlock. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, one way of getting over that gridlock would be to eliminate the legislative filibuster. So Mitch McConnell says absolutely not, no way. Whereas Chuck Schumer was actually like, you know what? No, I'm not going to make you any sort of guarantee that we're not going to get rid of the filibuster. Just let's do the power sharing agreement because we're kind of forced into a corner to do so because of the makeup of the Senate. But I'm not going to guarantee that we're not going to blow up the filibuster, especially since we see how you've used it. So that's sort of the situation that we're in. So now Schumer recently was on, on Rachel Maddow's show, right? And he said, "Well, I hope Mitch McConnell drops this ridiculous filibuster demand. I think he's going to do the right thing." So, well, turns out that's kind of what happened. And so Schumer is delighted. He's like, yes, I won something. But wait a minute. Not quite. So here's where it gets a little into the weeds, right? So now first, Justin Goodman, who's a Schumer spokesperson, talked to Rachel Maddow. He said this, quote, "We're glad Senator McConnell threw in the towel and gave up in his ridiculous demand. We're looking forward to organizing the Senate under Democratic control and start getting big, bold things done for the American people." That's not going to happen because Mitch McConnell still has the filibuster. They're not getting rid of it. It's not going to happen under the Senate rules. So now Mitch McConnell was stopping Democrats from actually taking control of the Senate. So even though they lost, Mitch McConnell was saying, "Nope, I'm just not going to seat. I'm not going to seat anybody. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to hang everything up. I'm going to do obstruction, and that's it. Unless, of course, you promise to keep the filibuster, so I can basically obstruct everything that you do." Schumer, again, as I said, no. Well, I don't want to keep the filibuster. I want to keep it open to blow it up. I'm not going to get the promise. I'm not going to give you that promise or anything like that. So now, I had to mention that was kind of uncharacteristically strong for Chuck Schumer not to back down. But then knowing Democrats and how they actually function, I had my suspicions that somehow they were going to screw it up or something is going to happen. And that Mitch McConnell ultimately will get what he wants. And that's exactly what happened. So now Mitch McConnell has officially said, well, I'm not seeking that, that promise from Schumer to, stop the legislative filibuster, to keep the legislative filibuster, because I've already been guaranteed by Democrats, not Schumer, but other Democrats, that they're going to not vote in favor of getting rid of the filibuster. In fact, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, both Democrats, have affirmed their support for keeping the legislative filibuster, therefore handing Mitch McConnell all the power that he needs in order to obstruct. So now here's what McConnell said. Quote, "Today let me do my best McConnell voice. Today, 2 Democratic senators publicly confirmed that they will not vote to end the legislative filibuster. They agree with President Biden's, in my view, that no Senate majority should destroy the right of future minorities of both parties to help shape legislation. The legislative filibuster was a key part of the foundation beneath the Senate's last 50-50 power sharing agreement. In 2001, he continues, well, these assurances all look forward to moving ahead with a power sharing agreement modeled on that precedent. All right. So now, Joe Manchin, however, he comes out and he says, I do not support doing away with the filibuster under any condition. It is not who I am. Well, yeah, because you're basically a Republican. You're a Republican in blueface. And what you would do by allowing the filibuster to be nuked and allow a 51 vote threshold is, well, you would disempower Republicans from being able to obstruct. That's what you would do. Sinema's office also reiterated on Monday that she is still not supportive of nixing the filibuster. Quote, Sinema is against eliminating the filibuster, and she is not open to changing her mind about eliminating the filibuster, a spokesperson told the Washington Post. So, no nuclear option. Mitch McConnell gets everything that he wants, i.e. the filibuster, and so he's going to continue to obstruct everything. And that, I mean, he's got the tools. He's going to use them. Of course he's going to use them. So how the hell is this a win for Schumer? Where Schumer's out there going, oh, we won. Now we can actually do our job. We won. We get to actually take our seats that were being held hostage by Mitch McConnell, who refused to let us take over, even though we actually won. What a victory for Democrats. Holy crap, the bar is low. The bar is so low, it's under the floor. It really is. Wow. That's not a win. Mitch McConnell got everything he wanted. And again, to be fair, it's not Chuck Schumer. I don't know why he's taking a victory lap on this one, but it actually wasn't Chuck Schumer's fault. As I just said, it was Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. And so that's it. I mean, they sabotaged this. They helped Republicans. West Virginia, you had a chance to get rid of Joe Manchin. What did you do? There's a progressive, Paula Jean Swearengin. She was a wonderful, excellent progressive, a champion for water, for the environment, for jobs in West Virginia, but you didn't vote for her. You let this guy get back into power, and he just screwed the Democrats over. Arizona, there's another progressive, Deidre Booth, who ran against Kristen Sinema. She only got like 30% of the vote, less than. She was endorsed by Justice Democrats, People for Bernie, Progressive Democrats for America, a bunch of progressives and progressive groups. And yet, of course, she got blown out in Arizona and replaced by Sinema, who, again, just helped Mitch McConnell. She just helped Cocaine Mitch enact his agenda of complete obstruction for the next 4 years. Actually, I would say for the next 2 years, because it turns out Democrats are probably going to end up, because of obstruction, losing Senate seats or losing seats in the House. So there's going to be nothing that is done, okay? Nothing. This is why primaries matter. This is why primaries are so important. And this is why I get upset every time people are like, oh, I'm not going to vote in primaries, or people don't care enough to vote in primaries, because this is where the action happens. This is where all the races, all the legislation actually gets decided who wins the primary and goes on to win the general election. Ridiculous. And so now the only options they have are to, court Republicans who are going to be massively, of course, disincentivized to do anything. They're actually more incentivized into making Democrats fail. So they're not going to be able to do any sort of agenda that helps the American people. Or the other option, of course, is budget reconciliation. But for that to work, you need all Democrats on board, which includes Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. You see the problem? You see the problem here? So to call this a victory, like Rachel Maddow and Chuck Schumer and mainstream media are doing, it's disingenuous. It's just not true. It's all Republican, it's all right-wing framing. It's all this holding hands and kumbaya BS, in which There is none. There is none. Okay? McConnell didn't fold. He got what he wanted. Let's just the way, just not in the way he expected, of course, but in the end, a win's a win and power's power. And so it's a win for him. And unfortunately, that means a loss for the American people. The idea that this is being spun as a historic victory would be a hilarious joke if it didn't mean that we would be seeing gridlock for the next at least 2 years, and then a Republican win in 2022. Unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but, I'm usually, when it comes to this, I'm usually not. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.